Alright, here's another video for you guys. I'm going to show you how I set up my slider trigger frames. What I mean by that is how I polish them and my personal preferences for sliders. So, first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and take it apart. We'll just take a just an Allen key just so I can punch out the sear pin. Pull out the sear. Pull out the spring. We'll take the other Allen key, take off the shoe, oh, not quite, so there's the shoe, and then the trigger plate, and finally the plate spring. Let's see if you can see that. I got it right there. Okay. So now we just have a bare slider frame. As you can see, here's the trigger plate. It's all nice and rusty. So we're going to have to fix that. So I got some 220 grit sandpaper here. I'm going to lay it out flat. I'm just going to kind of rub it around. And get some of that surface rust off. See, the other side's all gone now. Do the same for the other side. See, that's how it is before. Alright, and it's all gone. Same for the top. Everything you do, you want to make sure you do it on a flat surface. Okay. So there we go. We're all nice and clean now, as you can see. Alright, so when polishing the trigger plate, there's a few points that you want to focus on. First of all, you just want to make sure that the sides are all nice and clean, because that's what's going to cause most of your drag is the sides. So if you have a lot of rust and gunk, and also on the sides of the inside of the trigger frame itself. Now, the other main spots are on the top of the top of the plate right here. This top piece, because that's what's going to ride along the body. Then you also have this little ramp. You see this little ramp part? Here, I'll use the Allen key. This ramp piece right here, that's what the sear rides on. This very bottom part right here, that's what your vertical adjustment screw rides on. And then you have, some frames have another screw right here. Most newer frames have another vertical adjustment screw right here. And right here, this little notch, that's where the trigger plate spring goes. So let's go ahead and talk about the sear now. The sear, again, you want to make sure the sides are all nice and clean. You see how, let that focus in, see how dirty that is on the other side too. So we'll go ahead and just clean it up. Alright, so there you go, see? Nice and clean. Alright, now on the sear, like I said, you want to make sure the sides are nice and clean. The notch in the back here, that's what catches your hammer lug. You want to make sure this is pretty polished. It's not the most important part of the sear, because usually the hammer just barely catches that tip. And even if you do spend all the time making that to a nice mirror polish, the lug's just going to scratch it up anyway. But you want to make sure there's no major nicks or dings in there, because that's what's really going to screw up your trigger pull. And then the bottom piece right here, I would say from about here to about the top of it over here, this curve right here, you want to make sure that's nice and polished, because that's what's going to ride on that ramp for the trigger plate. Alright, so to polish it up, I'm going to put it in this little vise I have here. This is just, a cheap little vise. It doesn't have teeth on the side, so you don't have to worry about it scratching or chewing into the sides. In this really fine metal file, I'm just going to try to go as flat as you can. Oh, there we go. Didn't have it tight enough there. Again, this is a pretty cheap vise, so it's got a little slop in it, so. Now what I'm trying to do here is get the, let me see if I can see it. You'd probably be able to see it better on the trigger plate. Now this one's already been polished once before, it just needs a little better job. But I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but on this piece right here, there's some little machining marks, some jagged edges, because really they just punch these things out, and they mass produce these things, so the flat edges really have jagged edges on them from the machines. See, this one's already been polished once before, just a very long time ago. So what I'm trying to do is, these are all chrome or nickel plated. I'm trying to get all the plating off and get down to bare aluminum. That way I get all the jagged edges off and get all the imperfections out of the plating out of there. That's what I'm doing here. Alright, I want to say that's good for the sear. Alright, trigger plate, we'll start with the top. Alright, put that nice and snug down. And what we want to try to do, I know my hand's in the way, but you want to try to get as flat as possible. We'll do a little cross cuts. Right now I'm going against the grain of the file. That way it's just getting me the most bite as possible. Then once you get down to where you want to be, then you want to go with, not with the grain of the metal. Metal doesn't really have a grain, but you want to go with the length of the trigger plate, because that's the way it's going to be pulled whenever you pull the frame. Alright, so there's looks like all the cuts out of there. Move the plate, we'll do the ramp area. We're just about down to bare aluminum. Alright, there we are. Last but not least, we're going to do the underside, where the adjustment screws ride. Alright, now we're going to go with the grain just to finish it up. There, now we've got all the jagged edges out of the trigger plate. It's looking real nice. So what we'll do here is some wet sanding. Most people will say, you want to start at about 500 or so, which is true for aluminum. For stainless pieces, it's a little different. This is a really fine file, so it's already kind of skipping a few steps. So I'm just going to go straight to 1,000. That's what I have here, just to get all the burrs, the microscopic burrs that this file kind of creates. So just a little bit of water. I'll spread it around. You want again, you want to make sure it's as flat as possible. It might be hard to find some, 1,000 grit sandpaper, but the best places to look are going to be AutoZone and Pep Boys. I don't know exactly where you guys are located, but auto parts stores are going to be the best because they have sandpaper that's designed to buff out scratches and stuff on paint. So it's going to be really fine finishing sandpaper. It looks just about. We'll go ahead and get the size a little bit. That's very smooth. So I'm gonna kind of move it over here to see the edge of the table. I'm gonna use the edge of the table kind of to help me out here. Try to see what I'm doing here. Okay. Alright, there's all the sides. And then just the actual side of the plate itself, just a little quick touch up. Alright, let's dry this off. Alright. See if that'll focus in. You see it's got a nice shine to it. Be very smooth. Now for the trigger plate, again you want to do this back latch and just kind of around the tip. I mean, sorry, not the trigger plate, the trigger sear. Alright, it's good on that. And I'm just kind of trying to make it all in one fluid motion, get all the way around the bottom of the sear. I'll flip it over. Alright, that's the polishing of a slider. Go ahead and drop it all back together just in case you're wondering how to put it back together. Alright, so there's your bare slider. And you got the trigger plate spring. It's going to go on the bottom, right through here. I'm sorry if it's not focusing quite right. It actually needs to be flipped around. There we go. The trigger plate's just going to rest right on top of that spring, just like that. I'm going to take a small Allen key and push that spring back behind the trigger plate. Alright, so you see the trigger plate dropped all the way down. See it's kind of rising up. That's because that spring is not quite as flat as I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and stick it back in there just a little more and push down on the trigger plate and pull it right out. Okay. Give a couple pulls. Alright, do you see how whenever the trigger plate's coming on top, whenever it's flat, it's got a really sudden jerk to it. That's because these screws are not adjusted right. So we'll go ahead and fix that right now. Let's see if I can't get to that second one. Just unscrew it a little bit. I just need a little more. Here, we'll go ahead and make sure. Let me go ahead and look from the top of the slider. Clean that out just a little bit. It's got a little bit of rust on the bottom of that. So, better pick it up. Here, just hang on one second. Go ahead and grab a Q-tip so I can get that rust out of there. Just a little bit of water. Yeah, that's the problem right there. You see how dirty that is? You don't want that inside of your slider frame. Alright, so we'll drop this back in again. Be that way. Drop the plate on. Allen key. And just shove it back in there. It's rising up a little further than I want it to be. Push that back. Okay, there we go. Alright, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and put the the sear back in. Line up that hole for the pin. Drop the pin in. Give it a nice little tap. Put the sear spring back in. There's a pin, the spring on top. And last but not least, well, not quite last, we still gotta put the shoe back on. I'm gonna take a little bit of oil, and in this case, just maybe Eclipse oil. Just lube up the sides just a bit. Keep everything nice and smooth. Okay. Smooth as butter right there. Alright, the shoe back on. Alright. That's a slider. Thanks for watching.